Oh, they're not muted. I joked on you.
You did do a joke on me.
I joked on you. Hi, everybody. Oh, the camera's so off.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get that more like this. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Drawfee Stream.
It's a Drawfee Stream.
I accidentally joked on Julia. I said she was going to have to unmute the mics really fast after she switched, but little did I know, in my genius brain, I had already unmuted the mics on this scene. And then in my idiot brain, I forgot that I did it. How's everybody doing? We just got 10 gift subs from 42nd Doctor. Thank you so much.
And a bunch of subs from a bunch of other people.
A bunch of subs from a bunch of people. It's a Jacob Julia special tonight.
It's us.
It's us.
It's us.
You know us. You
know
remember us.
Oh my god.
Maybe you remember us from last night if you were on our stream then.
If you were in that fever dream that was Chip's Challenge stream.
Yeah, that was us. This is us. We're both
This is us.
Milo Ventimiglia, the
Is that
actor.
his name?
Yeah, it's a cool name, right?
It is cool.
Yeah, we're both him, and this is us, and we're doing something a little different tonight since it's us.
This is us.
And we tend to do more like draw classy things when it's the two of us. We like to teach.
Yeah.
So the idea we have for tonight is you, the audience, is going to ask us art stuff, or like how we would go about drawing certain things or in certain ways or certain styles or whatever your questions may be.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will pick ones and we will each demonstrate for you how we would do it.
Yeah.
So say you give us a thing you want to see how it's done. Julia will show you how she will do it. I will show you how I would go about it. And you'll get two perspectives on the same sort of
Two perspectives
same
for
sort
the
of
price
thing.
of none. It's free. It's flipping free.
Because we do everything.
We on the internet.
We do everything differently from one another.
Two for the price of nothing.
Two for the price of nothing. Everything is free. Welcome. It's not free if you gift us 10 subs, though.
Wow.
Econo108, thank you so much for the gift subs.
I choose to read it as Isan.
Oh, I just realized I put the alert box below the capture.
Do you want me to fix that?
This is clearly the better way to do it. Put that on top. Now that should show up in an ideal world, but it might not. There it is. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I had to change around things since we're not on Zoom this time. But in any case, why don't you start asking us some things? I see one right off the bat. How would you draw guitar is a good one.
You draw a gourd and then a stick coming out of the gourd.
How do you figure out the size of eyes if the face isn't head on? That's another good one.
That's a good question.
Do we want to warm up with how we would draw guitar?
How I draw guitar.
Because I hate drawing guitar. I'll tell you that much. You can slide this.
I draw guitar like.
You want to scoot a little bit? Would that be easier for you?
Whatever, man. We're playing
you seem to be at a very uncomfortable position. I'd like for you to be comfortable.
The circle attaches to the circle.
The circle attaches to the circle.
And then you bridge the gap to get young voters to vote.
You have to bridge the gap.
To get young people to vote. Hey, y'all, you should all vote. Guitar!
This is how you draw a guitar!
Oh. I'm drawing a guitar wrong is what I'm realizing.
Well, yours doesn't have a cutaway. Some guitars don't have a cutaway.
Well, I want my guitar to look like your guitar.
Then
so you
do need to give it a cutaway then in that instance.
I'm gonna draw a circle many times to get it to work.
Oh, the mic inversion.
I gotta put this up here.
You've become serious.
So that I can draw. And then a slightly smaller circle on top.
Unpaired Electron said, for everyone asking for specific objects, references will save your life. That is very true. The ultimate tip we'll put above all other tips is you can just look up a reference and then adapt your drawing from there.
Learn from reference.
If you're like me, though, I don't often, when I'm just like drawing something in my style, I don't look up reference, and then I just kind of figure out the easiest possible way to do it. So maybe we're kind of showing off, like, if you don't have a reference, here's a way you can kind of wing it. The circle do go up towards the top and not the bottom. Yeah. Not that's too high. That's too high. That's a little face. It's a little, what is it? A little devil? Is it a bug? First you draw a bee. You got to start with a bee.
Does it go over here?
Oh, I see Joy. Oh, she running.
Oh, she running. And then this thingy back here?
That it goes, yeah.
Yeah. I remember from when I made my hurdy-gurdy.
Hurdus-gurdus.
My hurdus-gurdus.
I just want to say, for the record, it's really weirding me out that we don't have headphones on.
Jacob keeps reaching for them. Joy, can I help you?
Like, I keep feeling like there's something I need to be hearing, and I'm not hearing it.
Are you sure it goes up this way? Oh, damn!
Yeah, you just made the circle way too big.
What I should also
Or you made the hole way too big.
Is that you can squish it. And there's a guitar shape that's kind of squished. I made the hole too big.
Yeah, the hole's not that big. Now this is a guitar hole.
Okay, then it has another circle here. That is the cutout.
That's the cutaway. It's usually not that harsh. It's usually like smoothed. The cutaway is. So I mean, it's good to start with that. I think you've misinterpreted what I was saying.
Like,
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
So you don't stab your little hand, your little bitty hand. Ibender asked where Nathan and Karina are. Karina is not feeling well, getting over some illness, and Nathan's just taking the night off because sometimes you got to take the night off. You know what I'm saying?
So the way that I know how to draw things is that a lot of the times it's because I've learned how the thing works, and that's how I remember things, how to draw things. But like, someone asked in the chat earlier, like, how do you draw an ear? That's all just learning it. Yeah, there's no rules.
You kind of just got to memorize the ear.
I have my ear memorized.
Or just have an easy way to do it.
I have my ears memorized, so it's like, actually it's like a little bit leaned. And then you have this, everything works to direct sound into the ear / protect gunk. So these little parts are to get sound in your ear, to get it bounced in, this to protect crap from getting into your ear hole.
I like that you just jumped to an ear when you weren't even done with the guitar.
Well, it was on topic.
Is it?
Well, someone asked.
Well, we got to do one thing at a time.
So anyway, so for the guitar, basically like the strings have to pass over this thing so the sound gets amplified. And then the strings have to get fastened in somewhere, so they get fastened into this bar.
Yep.
Right? And then they go up to these little keys. This is a very crudely drawn guitar, but it's more to get the idea.
It does have 6 pegs and 6 strings.
This is a bass guitar.
This is an acoustic bass.
Yeah.
Which does exist.
Yeah. Anyway.
Drawing a guitar, I just want to say for the record, sucks butt. And I hate doing it every time. It could also be a ukulele, yeah. But the body's a little too big for a ukulele. Is that cowboy hat?
Yeah, tiny cowboys right here.
Oh. It's a hasty tiny cowboy on a hasty guitar.
My brush is also like a million times too big. Anyway, there you go.
Can I show my guitar?
Yeah, show your guitar. Joy, can I help you? Do you need a pickup?
We need to switch seats, so Joy cannot sit here right now. Give her a hug and take her away.
Take her away.
Drawing guitars is universally bad. I don't want this pencil tool basically ever.
It's a bad tool.
What?
What?
What brush am I on?
What brush are you on?
How's this happened?
Joy wants on.
There we go. Oh, hello, Joy. I'm kind of in the middle of doing a...
You can't now.
I'm kind of in the middle of doing a demonstration. I don't know if you're aware. I had some things I was trying to do here.
Joy wants to draw. Let her draw.
Joy cannot draw. She is a cat, and I forbid it.
Right in the middle of the canvas, huh? That's daring.
I'm just trying to get it to like a better spot so I can be heard easily.
Yeah.
I'd probably do something similar to Julia. I usually go with like a circle and a circle. And I do this thing same way.
Draw Gord. Draw what's his face's Gord from Naruto.
Draw Gaara's gourd from Naruto. And I definitely, like, I shortcut it big time every time. I do the pegs so everyone can tell that this is a guitar and not a bass. And then I do the circle.
Such shade.
And then I usually just do, like, I give it, like, one of these. Where it's, like, clear that you're not seeing all the strings.
Yeah.
You just see, like, little bits. I have to make this smaller.
You definitely don't have to draw everything. Art
Yeah.
is partially magic and illusions.
So you can kind of just, like, hint at a lot of it if you don't want to do it. I typically just don't draw guitars. Or if I do, they're like this.
I feel like we've drawn a number of guitars on the show.
Probably. This
Yeah.
one looks stupid.
It
But
looks
it's a guitar.
Yeah, whatever.
You know? And sometimes they have the pick guard that goes there. And some fancy, like, filigrees. You can fancy them up if you want to. I don't want to.
Nope. Someone said, how do you emulate watercolor on Photoshop? Watercolor brushes by Kyle.
Yeah, there's watercolor brushes.
They're pretty
Sure.
dope.
Sure,
I use them quite a bit, actually.
They're probably like wet media. No, they're in Megapack. And then in the paint box would be my guess. Paint box. Where's the watercolors? Here we go. Look at this. We got a broad wash.
We got ourselves a broad wash.
Here's some watercolors. I don't use watercolors at all, so I don't know like any of the proper. They have a bunch of them in here though. You can do various sort of emulations with.
Hey, Jacob, we got a question.
Yes.
And I feel like this is something we can tackle.
Okay.
How do you guys figure out clothing folds?
How do you figure out clothing folds? That's a good question.
There's a lot of good rules for clothing folds that I like.
Yeah, I feel like this will be one where me and Julia come at it very differently.
Yeah.
What has happened to this brush? Why did it become 90% opacity and 20% flow?
From Progressive.
Sometimes I just don't know what happens to my brush settings. They just go wild.
Don't know.
Okay. Let's think about this. We're gonna do like a person here. And they're gonna have on like some clothes of some kind. Here's their body. I don't tend to think too much about the rules. I'm more of like an intuitive, or I guess I should say I do think about the rules, but I don't know like what they are specifically.
Okay.
I just know like what I see people do, and I do that. Like I internalize that. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I just don't know the name of like what it's called.
That's how I used to do clothing folds. Yeah.
So if we have like a person here.
I say used to, I mean like a year ago.
Before
That
you
wasn't-
stopped drawing.
That wasn't like a slight.
Oh.
I didn't mean like
think-
when I was a child.
No, I didn't think it was a slight.
Okay, good.
I think it's one of those things where it's just different learning styles. A lot of times if like I look up like how to do clothing folds, it won't stick with me, the rules.
Fair
But
enough.
if I'm like looking at people's art and then trying to like put into practice the things they do,
Yeah.
then it does stick with me if I have it like in practice like that.
Undies.
Here's Undies Man. We're gonna lower his opacity. So typically I just kind of think about where the clothes would be like falling on the body and then where they would be like meeting some sort of resistance, I guess. Like if you're wearing like a baggy shirt, it's going to be draped on your shoulders. So like this whole part up here is going to be taut because it's like draped over. And then let's say like it's a baggier shirt. So it'll hit the shoulder and kind of like cascade out a little bit. But you'll also probably generate some like folds in here if it's really baggy. Because the sleeve will be like, this is where I'm like bad at explaining it, you know?
Right.
Because
Well,
like
it just got extra
the
fabric.
sleeve will bunch because there's extra fabric.
There's extra fabric that's being forced into a small space, so there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of wrinkles. If it's being forced under, like, if you're wearing a really baggy shirt and you're, you know, and your arms are close to your body, all of that fabric has to go somewhere, so it's just going to fold up a lot.
Exactly, and there's like different ways you can demonstrate that. There are also usually like lines will follow the contours of the body. So you might get like a fold here where like a bit of the shirt falls on the arm and then a bit of it flares out. So you can get some folds here like that that are kind of easy to look for. And then a thing that I do if I'm trying to demonstrate like a baggy billowing portion is that I'll just make sure to make like some areas of it come down to like different lengths in a way, and then you can like figure out sort of the exactly how it works later. But you can definitely make like some folds like this if I could do it in a way that didn't look stupid. You can kind of think about like how it would.
It does look like he's wearing cool, like, Korean street fashion right now.
Like how it would fall. I tend to be the type that doesn't focus too heavily on clothing folds.
This shirt just needs in blocky letters that are kind of wavy across the chest that say something like some random word like liquid.
Yeah.
And this would be cool Korean street fashion.
If it were me drawing this, like in my style, I probably wouldn't include most of the folds because I prefer like a bigger shape. But there's also like ways you can do it subtly. Like say we tucked in this big shirt like into the pants, then it's gonna like billow way out and up like this as it hits, and you'll end up with like folds going this way and then fabric folds going this way. I'd fall a little bit lower.
Because again, all the fabric's being forced into a spot, and since it's not like perfect, since you just tuck it in, things are gonna overlap and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then it would like kind of bunch. Like if you think about it, how you tuck in a shirt, it bunches over and like falls over the waistline a bit. You can sort of emulate that. It really just comes with like a lot of practice, I guess. This kind of looks like a garlic bulb.
It does.
But typically, like I said, I wouldn't be one to focus on that too hard. You can also do it like this way where it would like kind of fold around. I usually just go with like a rough approximation, and then I have like a couple lines to demonstrate what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But Julia will probably have more actual
I got some
distinct
rules
advice
for you.
Yeah.
As per usual, my answer is going to be, if you want to figure out clothing, look at clothing on a person, get reference, and just look at and observe what's going on and try to figure out why.
Yeah,
But
that's like the rule of most art.
just like everything in art, there's no like faces are easy to explain because there's rules there, but organic items are harder to explain. There's like, I can explain technique, I can't explain why things do what they do.
Get this bunchy boy out of here and we can swap.
Okay. Oh, you can just slide over.
I'll slide over since I got the cat. Line thickness lesson, we can definitely do that
Jacob's better at that
after
than
this. That's one I can actually speak on a lot.
Can you scoot to the left, please?
I'm working on it. It's hard when there's a cat
I'm actually going to
in
work
my
on your guy.
lap.
Whoops. I see your guys is 2 layers. Okay. So
You can get rid of like the clothes layer if you want to.
No, I'm just gonna build on top of yours.
Okay.
First of all, I need to do this. Well, actually, you know what? I want to do like...
The lesson was about how to add a cool logo to a shirt. This is Liquid Snake's shirt from Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I wanted to do. So I'm leaving now. Jacob can do the rest of the stream alone. I've done what I needed to do. Anyway, okay. So, again, you have to think about... It's hard to explain because it's just like things that you observe. You have to think about the kind of material that you're working with. You have to think about the weight of that material and how that material kind of behaves. If you have silk, there's going to be... everything's going to be a lot rounder and softer. And silk is kind of heavy, so you'll get a lot of, like, if he was wearing, let's say, a silk robe that's billowing.
Damn, he's getting cooler.
You know, you're going to get these big billows. Also, when you put, if you have a big billow, like a cape or a robe or something, and you want it to go behind, remember that these things often will kind of bowl out, like kind of sphere out. So don't do, like, if the edge is here, don't go here, because that, you know, will cut it short. Go, like, remember the perspective, go back and around, and you'll create a lot of depth there.
So much of drawing is just knowing how basic shapes rotate in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
And then applying those shapes to everything.
Yeah, and then, like, cheating it a little bit. So silk, if you want that silky effect, you're gonna have, and again, his arms are close to his body, so you're gonna get these folds here, but I'm wearing cotton, not, you know, silk. But you're gonna get some nice round ones, and then... So the way that it works on shoulders and by the armpit area is that it kind of fans out because it's anchored here because it's on something. It can't go through your shoulder, so, you know, it's very solid here, but then as it goes down, it's kind of just falling loosely, like a waterfall kind of thing. So, you know, it's getting scrunched here, and that's being contained. That's why you have a lot of wrinkles here. But then as it's falling, it's not anchored to anything. It's just trying to deal with the shape of your arm with the weight of its own fabric. So you'll have, and again, silk, kind of heavy but very flowy, so you won't have too many wrinkles, but you will have like this kind of cascading, you know, thing here. So you have the weight of it falling down. Let's go down here. Let's follow that arm. Yeah. If you have a elbow that's like...
I have an elbow.
That's bent.
I have an elbow that's bent.
You have elbow that's bent.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, dude. Elbow joint. You have the shoulder here. You have that. Yeah. You have delt. You have that. Your skin bunches there. You get a little bit of muscle there. Okay. So if you have an elbow that's bent,
I have an elbow that's bent.
you wanna, like, I often draw dudes who have rolled up, like, button up shirts.
Yeah.
So you think about what's happening with that fabric is that you're folding it over, you're folding it over again, and you're folding it over again. So you have the thickness of that fabric 4 times, but it's also very stiff because you're kind of getting it kind of tight. But with that creates a lot of wrinkles because everything's getting, you're scrunching, and then you're scrunching, and then you're scrunching. So if we have it here, oops. you get a little bit of thickness here. You're gonna follow, you know, the arm here. Then it's usually kind of tight here. It's like, you know, the chest is here. If it's a fitted shirt, it's gonna follow this. And then you have wrinkles here that are gonna happen because the elbow is bent. And you also have some wrinkles here, again, if it's a fitted shirt, because it's tight and it's trying to compensate for your shoulder rotating. So it's stretching to kind of fit that. Then you have some fabric that kind of goes up and around to compensate for that rotation. There's also usually a seam here. See, so this is going to fold down. And also because it's really tight here, it usually gets very tight at the elbow. You're going to have some little, sometimes you'll have these little, like, the fabric is kind of stretching and pulling to hit that, because also you're getting a little bit of, like, the residual folds from the elbow. And so, like, it's kind of stretching to hit that point. And then here, because it's, again, getting scrunched in there and it's trying to fit into this weird shape, you get some wrinkles here, kind of like coming out a little bit. And then this will usually be like a big old mess of things going across because it's stretching. So you still get, like, especially if you're drawing a more muscular person, you get the definition of the muscles with a fitted shirt because the wrinkles are following those muscles, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of observation and seeing what a fabric does. If you have a bigger, you know, thicker, more plasticky, like I just got a new raincoat and the folds are like really, really big. You'll get like, and it's kind of heavy, you'll get these big old, you know, you'll get these big creases.
Yeah, different fabrics have very different ways they fold, and depending on how tight it is to the body, makes a huge difference. I think a good tip that I usually try to remember is to just think about where the fabric would be pressed tight against the body and where it would be coming to a crease. And then those creases always like originate when you're drawing them like at a point and then fan outwards from there. You think that's safe to say?
Yeah, I would. And then if things are tighter, you know, it'll kind of go across like this.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
Next question.
Did we want to do line thickness?
Oh, yeah. I think I don't have a rule for this. I usually, if I'm thinking about line thickness, it's because I'm using sorry, Jacob, I'm gonna mess up your brush for a second. Well, you'll be able to go back by clicking over
my
here.
brush.
My brush.
Why?
My favorite little brush here. The only reason I ever think about the thickness of a line, if I'm to draw, it's like, you know, I'll think about shadow with my line thickness. Like if there's the lighting's coming from like here, it's gonna hit under this nose. And there's a lot that like your brain can fill out. So if it's not like crucial, I'll make it kind of thinner. But if it really sets, you know, the lighting, or if it's a key part of what you're looking at,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's like
you want to use those the thicker blacks to...
Yeah.
I almost said highlight the shadows, which is an oxymoron, but it is also true.
Yeah, it's to make those shadows pop.
Yeah.
But it's just like, if it's important, or if it's like a long line, like something like this, I'll kind of just let it be thin so that it's not taking up too much of the canvas, and it's not like, it's not the most crucial, it's not the most interesting, so I'll make the line thin. If it's an area where I want people to look, maybe I'll go a little bit thicker. But this is not something I think a lot about, so.
I do think a lot about it.
Jacob will be...
It's the primary thing I think about.
Yeah.
But I approach it from a cartooning perspective rather than a representative perspective.
Right.
So I can show that off too. Oh my God.
Sorry.
Oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is happening? Why are you doing this? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm back.
Baby!
I always think the line thickness question is really interesting, or like picking line weight, because there's artists whose art I adore that don't even use pressure sensitivity for their line weights. Sam Bosma specifically comes to mind.
Yeah.
I adore Sam Bosma's work. If you look at his work up close, all of his lines are the same weight. Yeah. And he has the sensitivity for opacity instead. He usually uses a rough brush. Yeah. And has the sensitivity for opacity, but all the lines are equal weight. And it doesn't look like that from far away, but close up it does. And some people can really pull that off. I've always been very thinky about the line weight, personally, because it was like an easy way for me to make my art look cleaner and nicer, which I wanted to do. So I'm actually going to start by doing just like a little sketch that we can then do inkies over.
Someone just messaged me with my #1 pet peeve. My weirdest pet peeve.
Your weirdest pet peeve?
Yeah.
What happened?
When people just DM you and they're like, "Can I ask you a question?"
Oh yeah.
Just ask it.
It's
just
like,
ask.
We're already here.
I don't know what the question is, because now it could be anything and it could be weird, and then I can't ignore you.
Yeah.
If it is weird, or if I don't feel like answering it.
It's like we didn't need to have two.
You could have just asked all in one.
We didn't need to have two interactions, but now it's two. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, there is a lot of anxiety behind, "Can I ask you something?" It's such a loaded question.
I'm always just like, you could have asked me something if you had just asked it.
But now I don't want you to.
But now it's too late. So we're just doing a quick little character sketch here. I want something with a lot of different kind of lines to think about. Get the ear. That's how I do an ear, by the way. I tend to make my ears really big and really ovular. I just think it looks cute.
It's also readable. Like, it reads as an ear.
Yeah,
Congrats.
Totally.
That's all you need.
Okay, this is good enough. So when I'm inking something with clean inks, an inker I like to use a lot of them, but Kyle's Inkbox new favorite inker is really good. When I'm inking, I also usually turn my smoothing up a bit, usually to 10.
If you have Photoshop.
If you have Photoshop, it just makes the lines behave a little more, remove some of that jitter that you get on a digital screen sometimes.
Or Procreate, actually. They're smoothing on Procreate as well.
And then it makes me have to redo the lines less times. So the general rule that I follow, I'm actually going to slide this so I can access it a bit easier with my hand, is, let's make sure I got a good size here, I start with like the biggest lines and the outer lines, the lines that are going to be touching the outer borders of the character. So like if I look at this, I'm immediately drawn to this hairline first, this top line, because it's a big swooping shape and it's on the outside of the character. So for something like this, I usually want to make it pretty thick. And because I'm like a crazy person, I switch between brush and eraser constantly. I switch to eraser and then I taper the line by hand. If it's going to connect with something perpendicular like this, there's no need to. But if it's coming to a point, I want to make sure it reaches the point, and then I use the eraser to taper the line down by hand so that it makes a nice clean arc and point. And I'm very particular about it, and I spend a lot of time doing it.
He does. And he spends a lot of time making sure it's as clean as can be, but it always looks so nice.
I think it does have an impact on the final product.
It does, absolutely.
But a lot of times at the end of the day, I look and I can't tell.
Well, because you were the one who was in it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think about inking whatsoever, and it's because I
just
hate
to redo
inking.
this, actually, you see how this is kind of like, I'll actually zoom in. I forgot I can zoom in now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like messy in this area. So what I'll do is I usually zoom in, and then I'll just take my eraser and I'll like slide it up this way. And then I'll slide it up this way until I just get this nice, perfect point.
Little shape.
Anything that points, I want to make point very nicely.
It's just make sure that basically it's legible. You know, when you're having that crisscross, it starts to look a little bit messy and a little confusing because you don't know, what's going over what.
Yeah.
As the viewer. So.
Yeah, and again, this is also like a personal thing. If you want to do very clean cartoon inks, this is a good way to do it. I taper this line in as well because it's reaching towards the interior, which I tend to do thinner on interior lines, thicker on exterior lines. I think it makes for a much cleaner experience to have a differentiating factor between the big, bold outer lines and then the detail-oriented inner lines. It just makes it look very clean.
Two good questions that came up. One was, how do you do this in traditional media? I know a friend of mine does it with a brush, and she got some really nice tapered lines.
You can with like a brush pen or an ink brush.
She uses like a straight up brush.
But it's different because you use a very like slow and careful hand where you're like...
She's not slow and careful.
Well, when I tried to do it, I should say. If you're really good at it, I'm sure you can go fast.
Yeah.
But it ended up being like a very conscious, like pressing hard and then easing up slowly as I make a smooth movement.
She had a very particular brush for the thing. It's like very long, and it's like the way that she was doing it, it looked so nice and flowy. And the other question, do you think it's better to zoom in more while inking, or is it better to be zoomed out more? So I think it depends. I think it's good to flip in between the two, for me personally.
Yeah.
Because it's good to see the general picture, but then to get in to make sure that it's clean and nice and reading, I zoom in.
I keep the navigator over here.
Yeah.
As well, so I can like at a glance look at it a bit more zoomed out. But I do agree with Julia, and it also depends on the type of inking I'm doing. For this type of inking, for clean inking, I zoom in quite a bit. What's important to make a distinction on, though, is that when you're doing your initial sketch, I firmly believe you should not zoom in at all when you're sketching.
Yeah,
you'll get so bogged down in the details so early, and everything will just take a million years longer, and it doesn't have to.
I know.
And this is something I had to literally force myself to do because I wanted to zoom so badly.
Yeah.
Doing Drawfee actually helped a good bit since I couldn't.
Yeah.
But now that I don't zoom during the sketching process, I think it makes the overall compositions a lot better, and also it makes the job get done a lot faster. But then when it comes time to ink, I get in there on them lines because I want, specific line weights for everything in here. And so you'll see I'm like kind of adjusting pressure as I go, tapering towards the ends, and then I taper by hand. And another thing that I do when I'm inking, and again, it only pertains to this type of style, is I make sure that I never...
I'm laughing because Joy just keeps staring up at your face.
Joy, I'm teaching something right now. I'm teaching something. I'm teaching something to the people.
I took a picture because it's so cute.
I just want to get this thought out before I forget.
Yeah.
I make sure to never change my brush size, the actual size. I pick one size, and then I do everything else by pressure. So that way it creates a consistency for the entire piece. If I start like adjusting the size, I'll end up going too small in places that where like another similar feature has a different line width. And then I zoom out and it looks mismatched. But if I stick, like right now I'm at a 35 on this one, which allows me to go really heavy and really thin as well, depending on how light I go. And I can never go heavier than my heaviest line, and I can never go lighter than my lightest line.
Right.
So that makes a big difference in terms of how things end up looking.
Joy just keeps looking up at you, and it is the cutest thing.
Joy's cute.
I tweeted it for anyone who would like to see. It's just very cute. She also has one paw like wrapped around him, and it's adorable.
Another thing you'll notice that I do is that I pick one line segment and I do the whole thing in one go.
Oh yeah, I don't do that.
If it's a curve, I think it's better to do it all in one go, because then you get a smoothness from that you can't get if you stop, no matter how much you finagle.
Yeah.
Because then like the curve of the cheek is just so, it's nice when it all kind of works together. So then just to kind of speed this up, I would do the shoulders thick. Then I would do the collar thinner. And the inner line's kind of thinner, kind of thick. It's hard to say exactly, you know, because a lot of it is feel. But you'll notice, like, when we start getting to the face, I go a lot thinner on these lines.
Be delicate.
Because these are the more detail-oriented features. And also, typically, people will be drawn to the face first of a drawing. And so it's good to have the face be, like, different from the rest, to kind of have its own look to it. I usually taper. I taper everything. I'm a crazy person.
I mean, it looks nice. And also because in real life, those would taper anyway.
You can start looking at what like we can do next.
Yeah,
so
questions?
Finishing up here. Just kind of finish up this.
How would you do some basic coloring?
Some basic coloring. Don't like that, actually.
Fear of failure while drawing. Ooh, that's something I can just talk about right now. Something that I started doing, especially when I was doing traditional, is that I would get a sketchbook or a piece of paper. Like if I and I still do this if I'm like in an art pit, is that I'll take the piece of paper that I want to work on, because I work traditionally when I'm in an art pit because I just give up on having any control of anything. Is that I take the piece of paper and I just ruin one corner, or I just go ham. I'll tear the paper, I'll spill stuff on it, I'll, you know, crinkle it. I'll do something to make the paper already ruined so that the pressure of having a perfect piece is off. You've already started at a negative. It's already like, it's not going to be the best because the paper is ruined, or you're going to have a big streak across the center. And then the pressure's off. I honestly think that getting over the fear of failing is not something that ever really goes away. I think something that can help, other than messing up the piece of paper and all those things, is to fail a lot. You know, you just have to keep pushing and let yourself move on. You have to have a time period where you have a bunch of messed up pieces of paper and you just let yourself do. And then you go and you don't think about it, and then you look at it afterwards and you're like, wow, all of these suck. And then you draw the next day and you're like, oh, this is still bad. And you just keep failing, but then you get more comfortable with failing because you have to fail in order to learn anything.
Yeah. You'll learn way more from, people say it all the time and it sounds cliche, but I do think you learn more from your failures.
Absolutely. And it's
when
also,
you succeed, you have no reason to like reflect upon it.
Yeah, because also failing a lot just you'll notice improvements. Like if you set your bar low, if you're like, all of these drawings are crap garbage and everything I want to make today should be crap garbage, you look at it at the end of the day and your bar for those drawings was so low that you'll look at it after and go, actually, like, this corner is really nice, or this is really nice, and you'll start to like build yourself up. You'll start to find these little victories in these things that are, you know, things that you thought were complete failures.
Yeah, totally.
So
also, compounding on all of that, I can say from personal experience that from doing Drawfee and from working at College Humor for years,
yeah,
it's like really hard to self-motivate you to pump out the kind of numbers of drawings that it requires to like get over it. But I can say from having had the experience of having had to make so many comics for College Humor and then having to draw so constantly for Drawfee, that I genuinely don't think about it anymore. Like I don't go into a drawing thinking like, I go in with like the trepidation of like, oh, like how am I gonna do this? Like what's gonna happen?
Right.
But because I've completed so many drawings successfully, the mind state has shifted a little, and it's like an excited nervousness instead, where it's like, I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do this, but I've made so many things successfully. Surely I will figure it out.
Yeah.
By the end, like I have faith that I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's just like a numbers game. Like you just have to not put a lot of pressure on each individual drawing and instead look at your sort of overall body of work, and just remember that it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
If you do a bad drawing, nobody cares. I don't care. I'd rather you do a bad drawing than no drawing.
Yeah, totally. I think something else, a nice tip, is that if you get a new sketchbook and you have that new sketchbook pressure for it to be perfect, and you that first drawing you don't want to mess up, have a non-artist friend draw whatever the hell they want on that first page.
Yeah, totally.
Takes the pressure off. Whatever.
It's
I had my brother
good.
draw a lot in my notebooks, just like in the middle, so that I'd be like, I can do whatever I want with this now.
Yeah, there's a lot of little mental tricks.
Yeah.
Your mind is your worst enemy in this thing, and I find that the more I can distance myself from what I'm about to do, the more that I tell myself like all it is it's just drawing.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. Then the easier it is, and usually the better result I get too. If I'm just like feeling it out and enjoying the process a little more. I'm done with this inking. I hope everyone learned something about the inking.
The Lucky Bean is out.
I didn't know if you wanted to try and do, someone asked about like simple color.
Yeah, I can do simple color.
You can apply it to this drawing if you want. It's
sure.
inked.
Yeah. We'll make a complete work of art.
We can go over some like various
Someone just
styles.
asked how the producers are.
One of them's here, and she's good,
right there.
even though she fell off the ceiling today.
She did. Poor girl. Right, little girl? Olive is somewhere. She's like hiding or something.
Well, she probably knows it's almost pill time.
Oh yeah, what time is it? Should we hide her medicine? We still got a couple minutes.
Yeah, we got a few minutes.
What color hair should this person have? What were you thinking?
Kind of imagine like pink.
Pink?
Like a pink hair.
Okay.
How did she fall off the ceiling? We have these like high shelves that are above the refrigerator, and she likes to get on top of them and sleep. And she jumps down from there to the hood. What's it called? Steam hood? Smoke hood?
It's the like the
vent, the hood vent.
Yeah.
Above the stove.
The stove vent.
And she slipped and ate shit. I didn't see it. Julia was there.
I was so upset. I was more upset than Joy was.
So this is going to be a simple color pass.
Yes, this is going to be a simple color pass. So usually what I like to do, so I draw in pencil, which is something that I don't actually enjoy doing, but it's just something that I've accepted. I draw in pencil because it makes, I'll show you. So key difference right here. See, these lines are faded. And these are just solid. It's either pink or it's white. If I did a all layers fill, you usually get this little, see that? You see that little thing? So it cuts out a step. So I use pencil. I just go around the whole shape and I make sure it's closed off, and then I'll just fill it.
I do have the expand fill mapped to F4. So if you want to use that at any point, you're welcome to.
Thank you.
That's me and Nathan's special way to circumvent the issue.
Yeah, this is just I'm doing like how I color for work.
Yeah, I'm not calling you out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there are ways to not have the aliasing.
Yeah.
Without using the pencil tool, because I don't like the way the pencil tool's lines look.
I also want to talk about color relevancy.
Yeah.
So color relevancy is this thing where you've probably seen like the optical illusions where, you know, like this gray is the same as this gray, and you're like, what? Surely this other one is darker. And that's because of what it's surrounded by. The same principle applies to color. So you can have, if I have this in the background as opposed to a cool color, it'll change how the colors on top of it read and feel. So you usually want to work on a background color, on the background color. You usually want to block in like the main color of the background if you're going to have one. So since this is just a like a color pass, you know, it's going to be very, very simple. But like the skin tones, sometimes if you work like the skin tone first and then you put in the background, you'll notice that the skin tone looks a lot lighter or darker depending. So like if I did like my skin tone, it actually looks a lot lighter.
Yeah.
Here. You know.
And it's also like a bit close in
yeah,
tone to the background.
Yeah.
Like this skin tone looks a lot better on this background because there's more contrast in the tone.
Yeah, it's darker. Something that
is tone the right word?
Like saturation, but yeah, it can be tone. I'm gonna do that. Whoops. I'm gonna do this for a second.
What I mean when I say it is if you turn it to black and white, which is probably what you're gonna do.
This is what I'm doing. Not levels.
I don't think that's exactly. I think if you do the mode, change the mode to black and white, it might work better.
Nah.
Or grayscale, I mean.
No, sure, flatten. Discard.
Yeah,
there you go. Whereas if I did the other one, again, do something more akin to my skin tone. Oops.
You ideally want to have higher contrast values on that black to white scale. You can see that the skin tone is almost identical to the background.
Yeah, so it reads as a little samey and it gets a little boring. And also, if you ever had that thing where
apparently we can do layer, new adjustment layer, black and white, and that will work better.
I don't
thank
use
you,
adjustment
chat.
layers, but thank you.
Well, I'm just saying that would be easier for what we're doing.
Sometimes you'll have colors that look like they vibrate. Like here. Like the center.
They're unpleasant.
It's unpleasant to look at, and that's, you know, to do with this thing. It's also because they have the same saturation level. It's way too high. Let's get rid of that. Get that skin tone back. There we go. All right. I have to color this other arm. What color should her tank top be? Or
up to you.
Their tank top. I'm not sure this.
Up to you. Make your choice. I don't know either. I just drew them. They have not yet spoken to me.
They have not yet told me.
Somebody told me you had an OC that looked like an OC that I had in February of last year.
Let's do...
That's actually a pretty good parody song.
That is good. That's nice. That's nice. So I'm not going to make this perfectly white. I'm going to go... I guess I should make it perfect white, actually, for doing like a more stylized character. So I get a lot of questions about how I do shadows because I use weird palettes. So if I'm doing the skin tone, get them, Olive. So if I want to do their skin tone, and let's say the the sunlight's coming from here, like that kind of. There you go. If they're outside, it's usually a little bluer because of the atmosphere. So sometimes I'll either go across, because you don't want to go straight down because then it gets really dull. Usually I'll go diagonally towards like more saturation, and then I'll go over to this RGB at the bottom here, and this is in Procreate, this is in every art program, and then I'll play with this so that it gets a little bit of that blue tint so that it turns almost a little purpley.
So you're like picking up some of the background colors, what you're saying?
Yeah, so you're picking up some of the background colors, you're picking up some of the lighting. Also, the hair would affect it, since hair is typically, or in many cases, shiny. So it'll bounce into the shadows. So the pink hair would give the shadows on the face a little bit of a pink, twinge.
A pink twinge.
If we were to say that they were being lit from two different directions, and let's say one side is cooler or warmer, I'll go diagonally again, and I'll go over here, and then I'll play with this. I'll go towards this corner where it's red so that I have
a little bit of a warmer shadow tone.
A little bit of a warmer shadow tone. And I'm just thinking about what would be the bottom of these shapes. So on this person, we have the bottom of this chin area, and then the head is going to cast some shadow on the neck and the shoulders, and this is behind, and it'll be used to kind of push and pull things. Sometimes if the shoulders are up, this is just a detail that I like to do. You don't have to do this, but when your shoulders go up, your collarbones pop out more. So, and then unless you're wearing a piece of clothing that is vacuum sealed to your body, it will pop out a little bit more. So sometimes I like to put in a little detail of it casting a shadow like underneath that neck muscle, like that. And then body gets a little bit of a, I have to use the oops. There you go. And then, if they're buy something that's very bright neon that's on the other side, I'll put in that little highlight just to make it pop a little bit more. And same rules apply. You know, just think about the forms. Nose would catch it a little bit.
Yeah.
So that would be part of that blue. Whoop. Do we have any other questions?
I have stuff to say on this subject too.
Oh, okay.
If I may.
Go for it.
But we have to swap seats for me to do it.
We have to swip?
Yeah.
Oh.
I just color completely differently from you, so I feel like it's worth showing that as well.
I feel like we've made a Scott Pilgrim.
I done made a Scott Pilgrim.
I done made a Scott Pilgrim. Well, first and foremost. Oh yeah, and then since that highlight's there, it would be on the hair as well.
Yeah.
And then the clothes wouldn't get as much of this like neon highlight. It would be anything that is shiny or reflective, like your skin, because your skin has oil in it, so it reflects. And your hair, again, your hair has oil in it, so it'll reflect.
Totally, dude.
So I didn't put the blue on the shirt because the shirt is not reflective.
There's lots of little rules.
Observation. If you don't know how something would interact, observe it. There's Olive. She's up on the cat tree.
I will show now my colorway, my ninja way. We'll just do this.
Wow.
Except I do want to sample your colors. Whoops. Get over here. That can go. No, this can go. This can stay. We want all this. We're gonna move this. There we go.
There we go.
Now we're in business.
There we go.
So I mentioned the expand fill tool. I know we've been over this on Drawfee a lot of times, but every time I see someone ask about it, and I have to, if someone asks, I have to show it off because it is a lifesaver for me personally and the way that I draw in ink. This also helps a lot more if you tend to close your lines.
I gotta move the food.
Anyways, so there's a tool. Let me find the thing here. If you go to if this is in Photoshop, if you go to Window and you go to Actions, these are basically like custom commands you can make. And you'll see that I have one here called Expand Fill. And the way you make this is you open your Actions menu. You'll go to this little menu here and make a new action, which will show up, and you can name it and all of that. And you can set a key to bind it to. For mine, I bound it to F4. When you do that, your new action will appear here. Then you can click on it, and you can click down here on this button that is a record button. So once you click record, Photoshop is now recording every keystroke you make and applying it in a list to this action.
Every stroke you
So you'll
make.
see here that for expand fill, what I would do before I started recording is use my magic wand tool to select an area that I want to fill. Then I'd go over to my action and click record to set up this action. Then what you want to do is you want to do select and modify and expand. So what this will do is it will expand the area you have selected. For mine, I had it set to do 3 pixels. So once this is done, you'll watch the area here that's selected on the shirt, expands by 3 pixels. Now it's underneath the line work, or it's overlapping with the line work. So if you're working on a color layer that's underneath your line art, this would be underneath instead of bumping up against. Then the next command would be edit and fill with foreground color at 100% opacity. So we'll say OK on that. You see it fills. And then the last one is setting your selection, deselecting the area. So once you've done all that, you'll hit stop on your recording, and now you'll have these things as you see here listed out underneath your expand fill tool. So now, anytime I want to fill something in, all I have to do is use the magic wand tool to select an area, and then I just hit F4, and it automatically expands that selection by 3 pixels, fills it in with the foreground color, and then deselects the area.
Yeah.
So this is how I do literally all of my flatting, because it saves a metric ass ton of time.
Yeah.
So what I would do for this is I would select the color I want, select the area, hit F4. Select the skin tone, select the skin areas, hit F4. For areas where the lines are not filled, I would select the color I want, quickly just like block it in so that it doesn't overlap. Select the area, hit F4, take the pink, select the area, all of this, hit F4. And then just like that, you've got your flats in. Someone had also been asking, like, what are some time-saving ways to do flats? This is a very fast way. If you haven't used the pencil tool, in which case you can just fill indiscriminately.
That's what I do.
But I like the line work a lot better. I'm still on the pencil tool. I like the line work a lot better.
Your brush is on multiply for some reason?
Why?
I think you're on a weird brush.
No, I'm on the one I was using.
That's weird.
In any case. And for areas where the lines don't meet, you can just do this, what I'm doing here. Block it in and do this. And then you'll have it all set up for your next step, which for me, what I do for the sake of time oftentimes is I use a multiply layer for my basic shadows. So I'll make a layer on top of the layer, and I will set it as a clipping mask. So this layer 18 that I just made here will only show up on top of the layer underneath it.
And how do you do that?
I do it by alt-clicking in between the 2 layers. I think you can do it just by right-clicking on the layer and then clicking...
Well, before you have it as a clipping mask, it says make clipping mask. Then it said release clipping mask. It's in the middle.
Oh, there it is. Create clipping mask. Thank you. I never use this, so it's hard for my brain.
I use keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, I alt-click it.
I use Control-Alt-G.
I don't use that. I alt-click it.
I'm all keyboard shortcuts.
I alt-click it.
I am keyboard shortcuts.
I alt-click it. In any case, I set this as a clipping mask, which means that if I color now, it only goes on top of the layer underneath, like this. It won't show up in the white. It won't show up over here. It will only show up on top of the layer underneath. I set this, in case you don't know, above the layer panel here, there is this little drop-down menu. You can select this to multiply. So it's going to take whatever color you have selected and use it to essentially multiply the tone that it's going on top of. I don't know the exact terms to describe how it works, but I'll show you. If I have like a bright red and I put it here, you're going to get a darker reddish shadow, but it's different depending on what it's on.
What color it's on. Relevancy.
It's not just color relevancy, it's literally different. Because it's multiplying the color that it's on. This is probably easier to see if I use like a gray. You'll see it makes, if I put it on the pink, it makes a sort of darker desaturated pink. If I put it on the brown skin, it makes a darker desaturated brown. Same for all of this. These are all different colors that we're getting. So what I typically do is decide what kind of shadow tone I want to have. Normally I go cool, shadow tone, warm, light tone, but you can do it any way you want. It depends on the atmosphere you're putting your character in. But we'll just do like a bluish one. I usually like to do like a bluish, so I'll kind of go into like a bluish grayish area. And then we're going to say the light is coming from, I actually have to go out to show this. The light is coming from here-ish.
But then our characters won't make sense.
Well, they're not in the same.
What?
They're not in the same thing. So what I like about multiply is you don't have to keep selecting colors. You select one color, and then you just put that one everywhere, and it adapts on the fly to whatever it's on top of, which is really nice. The downside is you have less minute control over what you're doing. Like in
Yeah.
Julia's way, she's literally picking all the shadow tones,
Yeah.
which means that you have full control over everything. But I like it this way for speed, and because also I'm colorblind, and it makes it a lot easier for me to work on stuff like this.
I like it this way.
Exactly. So now I'm just pretty much doing what Julia did and selecting areas and filling them in. There would be a chin one.
Jacob is colorblind, yes.
And then there'd probably be one like on the chesty area. Yeah,
Jacob cannot
something
see
like
red.
this. I can see red. It's all kind of dependent. Taking into account the head shadow, like Julia said, her head shadow is over here. Mine is, wow, gone. Mine is down here to the right.
That wouldn't have happened if you had Scrubby Zoom off.
You'll never win the Scrubby Zoom battle with me. I love it more than life itself. We'll just add a couple more little shadows here. So then my coloring style is based a lot more heavily off of layer styles rather than like individually picking colors. So for instance, if I wanted to account for the bounce light, I can make a new layer that is also a clipping mask. I can make it a soft light layer. And then I use the magic wand a lot to select areas because I tend to work on like one shadow layer, one highlight layer. I don't separate everything. So instead, like say I wanted to account for the pink of the hair in this shadow a bit, I would take a soft brush. You take a nice soft round, and I have it set to soft light. And then I can sort of come in here with this, and you can add it like this. So you can see some of the bounce light there, and you can add it to the skin as well.
Can I tell you my favorite keyboard shortcut that is definitely just for me and me only, and I don't think anyone else uses it?
Yes.
If you want to select that shadow that's on the face that's under the hair,
Yeah.
you select
Oh,
it?
you want me to select it?
Yes. That was an actual ask. So I find it hard / distracting to see with the marching ants on there. Especially if I'm doing something a little bit more like nitty gritty. So, and also if you have rulers on, this will work too. If you hit Control H, it'll still be selected, but you just won't see the marching ants.
Oh, interesting. I never knew.
That's something that I use all the dang time because I hate seeing the marching ants, and also I use rulers a lot. And it'll hide the rulers, but it won't get rid of it. And it also will hide, you know, the magic wand selection, but it won't get rid of it. It won't like deselect the whole dang thing.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Good tip. Another thing I wanted to say is if you're using a multiply layer and you want to make it so the shadows are a little less intense, you can always just lower the opacity of the layer. Like if she's out in a brighter environment.
Yeah.
You can lower it to varying degrees, which I like that minute control you can have. And also, like, along with sort of the bounce light thing, if we say, like, you know, she's in an area that's like a little like grassy or something, you can even take green and be like some of the green would probably bounce up under the chin.
Yeah.
A little bit. You can add a little bit of that into that area, and then you can adjust the opacity of it so it doesn't look like insane. I'd probably do it on a different layer to be safe.
Also, if you don't want to work in a lot of layers, you can also change the opacity of your brush, but that's just harder to do.
I meant to do something different there. I'm going to deselect a bit of this so that I'm only catching the part I want. Then we're going to go like this, soft light. Kind of tuck that up under there. So you can end up with like these sort of subtle gradients of like where things would be hitting that I think are really fun. And another thing you can do, this is a real like tip for babies like me. if I've done like, and you've seen me do it in past Drawfees probably, if I want to like easily unify my colors, if they're not like sticking together well, make a clipping mask, make a soft light layer, get your soft round brush out, make it just so big. Pick you a color, like, you know, if we wanted to do like a lighter bluish color for like the blue sky bouncing off, if she's in like a blue sky environment, you kind of just go brush it over the top. It kind of unifies all the colors with like a common theme.
Yeah.
And then if like it's a, you know, a darker greenish color that I want in the shadows, I kind of just bring that in and go like, It gives everything this gradienty sort of look that I think is kind of nice.
Yeah.
For this type of thing. So it sort of is an easy mode trick to unifying your colors if they seem a little bit wild.
Yeah.
I can actually probably show a good example of if I pull up my...
Don't spoil.
Well, no, it's my pirates.
Don't spoil.
How is it a spoil?
Well, I just meant like don't show your files.
Oh, I'm not showing my files.
Yeah. It might not be in...
Did it already move?
Probably already moved.
There it is. Let's open this up. There we go. So this was the piece I did for the Redraw Childhood Art episode. And let's see if I can find where I did this cursed thing. Here it is. My colors I felt like weren't like meshing up, and so I put this layer over top where I kind of oranged up everything. But if I take it off, you can see
it's very purple without it.
Yeah, you can see the way that it like changes the tone of the piece. I think there's even like more. There's a lot of things I did to the flats, actually. I'll take it all off and show you. So this is the piece with no effects. This is like when I finished flatting everything, this is what I had. And I was like, this looks so dull.
It is very dull.
It's
I
like
feel like
so
the
dull
saturation is so like down there.
and lifeless.
Yeah.
So I added this like sort of peachy color over the top, which brightened everything up a bit. The shadows were this crazy purple thing. There's another layer of like a light color that I brushed on top, and there's another one that I brushed on top. And the highlights, so you can see like what a difference it makes. If you're not as good at coloring like me, and I don't like end up with something I like based on my own skills, you can use a lot of these layer styles and clipping masks to maybe turn it into a result you like a little better. That's all.
Yeah. I only learned to color in like late college, and it's because I forced myself to learn.
This is very moody.
Avatar pack. Questions?
We can go ahead and swap a seat.
Swap us.
Do a swip a swap us so we can actually stand up.
Yeah, because there's no cats.
Foreshortening, gesture draw, how do you do it? Facial expressions, tips for backgrounds.
Tips for backgrounds. I could do that. Because I feel like...
You can definitely do that. I'm not going to weigh in on that one at all. I moved it over here. Here you go.
You took it with you.
If you do backgrounds, I can do facial expressions or gesture drawing.
Okay. I'm just grouping this. Backgrounds. I like backgrounds. I feel like people make backgrounds too complicated. I feel like you just have to think about the scene. Think about the mood. If you have a person here.
Oh, they're happy. Oh, they're having a good time. They're a baby.
And they're having a nice day out. And we're like talking to this person. Maybe they're at the market. Maybe they were going food shopping with their significant other and they were just having a nice time. Think about movies. How would a movie do this scene? They wouldn't have something. Excuse me. They're thinking about the composition. They're thinking about where they want your eye to go. So, if we want to look at this happy little expression, we're going to have some perspective that literally draws your eye that way, or, less severely like that. And we want to just draw a lot of attention there. So maybe
the best background is 6 arrows pointing to the face.
Well, because I'm going to transform it.
Yeah, I was making a joke.
Maybe they're at a little market and it's like a little market stall.
This is a very cool way to like think about starting a background, like putting in sort of the focus lines and then
think about what you're trying to do.
Think about what you're trying to do.
What are you trying to do here? And then, stuff. And then, this side you can have it just be empty, or you can have the end of a market stall here, and then maybe, since it's maybe we're in like a little alley, think about the mood, think about what you're trying to tell in this story. Like, where are they? Would it be very busy? Stuff like that. If you want it to be a little eerie, turn it from this happy scene to like ominous. We'll have your attention. Maybe we want your focus to be here. So maybe we have a little alleyway where this person's been walking through. The perspective's not a hundo here, but
I just want to say this is good shit right here.
Thanks.
This is the hot advice you come for.
We have maybe some wires here. We can have this building keep going. We'll have some, windows up here for the perspective.
Now we're pointing at this dude who's doing a big squat. The angry squatter's coming for him. Oh, and he's sad. Or mad.
There you go. And then another thing is you can use lighting to think about, where you want the attention. Something that reads very well, and this kind of leads into a question that someone was asking before of how do you work with, mostly a dark palette, is that then you get kind of creative with where you are using that light. So if we have this person walking through this alleyway and we want even more attention on this dude in this background, we can use, and I'm shortcutting everything just, for example's sake, but this contrast of this surrounding darkness and then this just pillar of like black to white. I can actually make everything.
I think this illustrates it really well, actually.
Yeah. Good.
The areas of highest contrast are the areas that will draw the eye first.
Yes. See, because your eye, everything's all very soft until it leads to a very hard, like, concrete yes, no.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this kind of drama. You can make this maybe a little sadder if you did the reverse. If we did kind of, I'm gonna have to cut this person out as well.
Slice and dice.
Slice and dice. And that's, the kind of things that you have to consider with the background is that, you're just thinking about where your attention is. You're thinking about the space. A lot of people think about the background as a character that's in your scene. It tells its story that is kind of like the backup character to your main character. It helps you tell the story. So you can have a story where this person is in their office, but what kind of office would this person have? What are the personality traits in this person that would decorate the office as they do? Are they a very clinical person? Then you have backgrounds that are very neat and clean and maybe are kind of sparse. But if you have a character that's like kind of a mess, who would exist in a space where they kind of just like come into the office and they throw their paperwork down, or they throw all their stuff onto the floor or whatever, or maybe they wouldn't bother to buy a chair, or maybe they wouldn't bother to buy a coat hanger. You're just going to have things that are on the floor. So you have to use kind of your character's personality to exist in that space. Or maybe you can use the background character to kind of contrast that main character. Again, if you have kind of a mess of a person and they're in a space where they're supposed to feel a little uncomfortable, you're going to have a space that's very clinical, that's very not them. Then you have kind of this warring, it really emphasizes both of them. So,
So yeah, now you're seeing both really good.
Yeah. So I'm gonna select or select.
But I feel like you see the main man first, and then secondarily your eyes are drawn back, pointed backwards.
Well, also
now you see the back guy first.
Yeah, if he's like walking away too.
Yeah.
Then you're seeing this. You can use lighting a lot to help. One of my favorite things. So, as many of you know, my favorite movie in the whole wide world is this movie called The Fall. The movie called, not the TV show with Gillian Anderson, but it's a movie, The Fall. It's with Lee Pace. It's beautiful. It has the best background compositions I've ever seen in my life. It's just a beautiful movie. Everything is a beautiful composition that uses the backgrounds. So there's this, one of the opening scenes is Lee Pace is telling a story, and the first scene in that story is this guy, he's on a sand dune, and the sand dune is like this, and you got, oh shit, he's on a horse.
A perfect horse. I have to run to the bathroom.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
I'll keep ranting about this. Argument's sake, here's a horse. I'm a professional illustrator. I know how to draw a horse, but this is very funny to me. Then you have, just see chat in the corner of my eye. Then you have this Roman with his helmet. We're going on an adventure. It looks like a rocket-powered horse. But anyway, so the way that they shot it is very crafty, because in that shot you have, he's actually like very small in the frame from what I remember, and also I think it's not so tilted, but he's very tiny, and he's kind of like off to, yeah, he's off to one corner. I think he's over here. I'm trying to remember the scene. But then you have the mountains in the background, and where does that mountain end? The Centurion. Where does this other mountain start? Here. There's a bug. So you have all of these things in this shot that is pointing to what you are supposed to be looking at, because it's just a lot of basic shapes. If you want to think about a background, draw the thumbnail. Draw the thumbnail real sloppy. Here's my canvas. The dude's going to be here. He's going to be like, I want him to be on a mountain. Here's this tick of a horse. I want everyone to look at this guy. There you go. And then that's the scene, So you just think of it in terms of like pointing. Look at this. Look at this. I think someone, let me see. Yeah. It's actually this one. So this image. This is what I was thinking of. Can you guys see this? Yeah. So you see, you have a bunch of things that are crisscrossing through it or pointing to. I think the shot like continues to keep going, and then it's like super more like just like, hey, look at this, lookity look, and then the shadow is pointing, like everything is pointing you to this dude on a horse. So that's how you think about backgrounds. Think about that, and then think about, you know, what you can do with that shape. So that's my
Totally.
tip.
I feel like a lot of people's biggest problem is that they don't consider the focus of their drawing, and they don't consider the story the drawing is trying to tell.
The focus, the story, and also I think they don't break it down enough of just like, what am I trying to say here?
Yeah.
You know, this background, the point of the background, of a good background, is to showcase the characters in it. Do you like my horse? Oh, that's my tick of a horse. But you like my horse?
It's a good horse. It's kind of like my horses.
Yeah. I think I started drawing my horses because of the way that you do horses.
Bad.
They crack me up.
I do them bad. I gave up on good horses a long time ago. It's just not for me. I gave up on a good horse.
I need to cut my cap.
I think I was gonna talk about facial expressions.
Yeah, facial expressions.
I can do a quick one with facial expressions because there's some really easy stuff.
Olive.
Oh God.
For anyone wondering, Olive is doing fantastic.
Okay. Whoop. Whoop.
I love my new water bottle. It's great.
Here's a friend.
There's a friend.
Facial expressions.
This is an old lady.
Or is it?
Oh!
Who knows?
Could be anyone.
I think a thing that maybe a lot of people don't think about when it comes to facial expressions is that there are you can adjust sort of each minute element in subtle ways to get a wide variety of expressions. Like, you don't have to know exactly how to draw each expression as long as you know how to adjust each piece, if that makes sense. Where did that line go? My line went away. So for instance, if I could put it on minus lasso.
Yeah.
I never change my lasso type.
Oh, I always use lasso because I use Control D to deselect.
You put me on minus lasso. You set me up for failure.
I never use the new one.
This was a setup. What's the new one?
Like new select, which is what you guys use to deselect.
Oh yeah, I always click my lasso. I think it's a stupid way to do it, but that is what I do. Okay.
Shortcuts. It's almost like you can work in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about digital art too. It's like there's no wrong way, really.
Yeah.
You just want to do whatever's the most effective for you. There's like ways that are faster. There's ways that have different benefits. You kind of like look at what you got and what you're trying to accomplish.
Look at what you've done.
Okay, so here's just like sort of a neutral happy face. A fun thing to experiment with, and this can be applied to like realistic art as well. I just think it's easy to look at on a very cartoony face, is how you can adjust individual elements to change what the expression is like. So eyebrows are one of the big ones. Just by adjusting eyebrows and nothing else, you can get a wide variety of expressions here. Easiest one to think of is put them down. You got angry smile now. Lots of reasons a person would be doing an angry smile. Maybe they feel like they got a one-up on you. It's a little bit evil, a little bit sinister.
I have a plan that you don't know about.
A little bit cruel.
Or
another
determined.
one you can do is to arc the eyebrows up higher. Now you've got more of like a, kind of look. A little more surprised. A surprised smile. One that I like to do is give it this kind of eyebrow. Now you got a concerned smile.
Yeah.
Like, I'm worried about you, you know? Like I'm trying to put on a happy face, but I'm worried about you. Now, if you take these same eyebrows and move them up a bit, the concern level kind of shifts.
Oh.
As you raise the eyebrows, everything looks a little bit more like pushes it more into the shock realm.
Yeah.
And as you lower them, you kind of get into more of like the angry, concerned realm.
The screaming inside kind of face.
The important thing to remember is that the face part is not changed at all during this. You can also do things like, if this was like, sort of the sinister angry, you can go up higher with the anger, and you end up with like a more manic anger. Like, yeah, that's what you want to do, huh? So you can look at like the ways that, especially if you're doing it in a cartoony way like I do it, ways that other cartoons express emotions, and really pay attention to what are they doing with the eyes, what are they doing with the eyebrows, what are they doing with the mouth.
It's so if you have a brain that kind of works more like mine, where pushing stuff in art and like cheating a little bit, like doing something like that, like in my mind, like in art you have to cheat a bit, you have to push it. Like in my problem is that I think very concretely in rules and how things work. So like the eyebrows on a human face, when you're looking at it, they go up, but it's not like in your hairline or like through your hair. Yeah. But you have to think about like readability. You have to think about the legibility of this expression. Especially if you simplify things. If you simplify things in big basic shapes, it's because you want things to be legible and expressive and really like lean into it. You really have to cheat. You have to like, it's something that you can see it in some of like the Rockwell. In Norman Rockwell's art, is that he uses reference, but like he pushes it and he exaggerates it. He does make it go big and up more, and he does like a big, almost like stage sort of like, if someone's going like whoa, instead of being like a whoa, he does like a whoa, and then he pushes everything in this like exaggerated form. Yeah, totally. It's just the whatever your best way is to demonstrate to the audience exactly what the character is feeling. Yeah. And you can take these same rules I'm doing here and apply them to more naturalistic work. It's just going to be a lot more reined in than this. Mm-hmm. If you're doing a cartoon, you can kind of move stuff wherever. To demonstrate a little bit more without adjusting the eyebrows, if we're just adjusting the mouth, we got the smile, character looks happy. We get the frown, obviously the character looks sad, but it's a neutral sad because the eyebrows are in the neutral position. Yeah. Having the eyebrows in a neutral position is going to sort of neutralify everything else you do. So if I open the mouth a little bit like this, it's a neutral shock, like a but if you take the eyebrows and you really raise them up and arc them up, then it's going to be more like a and then if you start playing with the eyelids, the lower lid is a big one. You raise the lower lid up, and now you're getting, all sorts of different expressions. Take lots of pictures of your own face when you're doing these. Like, make them, like, really big expressions, like, really exaggerate it. Like, if you're smiling, do a really big smile and see what's happening to your face. That's changing it from its neutral. Like, when you smile, it pushes your cheeks up, which goes into your eyes, which causes those bottom eyelids to go up. Yeah, totally. And I also recommend doing exactly what I'm doing. This was a way that I practiced a lot when I was sort of learning how to do facial expressions. Mm-hmm. Is I would just take a face like this and then erase elements and then do it differently and then see how it changed what the face looked like. Like if I bring the eyelids back down, this takes on a bit of a sadder tone. And if you take the eyes themselves and make them smaller, it increases the shock value quite a bit. You can do things like adding bags under the eyes. There's so many simple, like, iconographic things you can do to a cartoon face that will have big impact and not require, like, actually knowing everything. And the more faces you draw, the more expressions you get, kind of the more you add to that mental memory bank. Yeah. Of expressions you can use. Two things to touch on very quickly. I keep seeing this question about what brand of drawing glove. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, mine's Amonik.
Mine's I don't even remember because the thing is worn off, but it was something with an H. It's just like it's you can just find them anywhere. Doesn't really matter which one you use. It's just so that our hands don't stick to the Cintiq. It's not like a compression glove at all. The other thing is that people were talking about, you know, the frustration of learning rules and kind of bypassing that. And something that I think is very important, and this is a hill that I will probably die on, is that I feel like everyone should learn the rules first instead of like mimicking someone's style and then just doing that kind of based off of like what you can observe from that style instead of like understanding why they're shortcutting things at the way that they're shortcutting. You have to understand, like, I always talk about this as an example, that Hikaru no Go, you can see like their early art compared to their later art of like when they studied art and see the difference in how everything moves and how everything reads, and things can still read, but it translates so much better and it feels, I don't know. I feel like everyone should study art, like the art rules. You don't have to know it by heart, and you don't ever have to use it again, but having that in the back of your head helps you so much understand what you are shortcutting and why you're doing the things that you're doing.
I do agree with you to an extent.
Yeah.
And that extent is that I didn't do that when I started drawing.
Yeah.
And even once I was professionally drawing, I still hadn't done that.
Yeah.
For me, that part actually came later.
Yeah.
But what I know for a fact is that if I had tried to start with fundamentals,
yeah,
I just wouldn't have drawn, because it's not like particularly fun if you don't know what you're doing.
No.
So I learned a lot of basics through emulation.
Yeah.
But then once I got deep enough into it, I started to realize that if I picked up on the fundamentals, it would improve me drastically.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was so invested in improving and drawing that it was actually enjoyable to do.
Yeah.
I think if you're the type of person who can start on fundamentals, that's definitely the best thing to do.
I'm not saying start on fundamentals and only do fundamentals. I'm saying learn them, because it helps. I have plenty of notebooks of me drawing trunks stills from DBZ.
I mean, who didn't draw trunks?
Of me pausing the episode and drawing from there, or finding an image of Hiro Yui on Google or Ask a Jeeves or whatever I was using at the time.
Yeah.
And drawing him from there. But it makes such a difference when you learn. It was just, I went to college with a lot of people who are very against learning the principles and rules, and I see it in their art now.
Yeah.
I see it, and they're trying to emulate something that isn't working for them, and it's not working for them because they don't understand why the original person they're emulating shortcutted things the way that they did.
Yeah.
There comes
a point where you can no longer sort of fake it.
Yeah.
You can fake it in certain ways, but there does come a point where you can't anymore, and you have to start picking up on some of that stuff.
Someone said, what reference material would you recommend learning the rules? I just like drawing from real life. Try to understand what it is that you're drawing and why. And if you have a question about why something is doing the way that it's doing, kind of look it up. Like, I feel like I've learned a lot of face angles because I've learned how to do a breakdown, and I've learned kind of like how a head works. There's also, I'm sure, plenty of very good books out there. I used one book that was very good, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was recommended to me. Jacob, this is very cute.
I use YouTube for just about everything.
Yeah, you can learn it on YouTube.
There's so many good artists on YouTube. And if you Google literally how about anything of the fundamentals, you'll find like a more comprehensive guide than you could have. I
think I used this book by someone named Bridgman, weirdly enough.
I remember Bridgman.
Yeah.
The art author Bridgman.
Yeah.
I've also got like the what's his name that everyone has. You know the guy.
I didn't actually until you showed it to me a couple of years ago.
What's the guy? What's the guy everyone has?
Do you want to just look?
Someone's gonna know the name. Loomis. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Scream Roots.
I'd have no idea who that is.
Andrew Loomis is the one that was always recommended to me.
Oh.
And I have his book. But honestly, I don't really use the books at all. I learned a lot more through YouTube than I ever learned through any book. Through YouTube and like practice and like thoughtful practice.
Thoughtful practice, I think, is the best
Yeah. I think it's hard
teacher.
when you start out because you don't know what thoughtful practice is.
Well, because it's like anything. It's like you don't know what the questions you're going to have are until you start getting in. But I think if you get into it and you're like, oh, shit, how do the wrinkles work here? Go and solve it, by looking it up or taking a reference photo or looking up a YouTube video or, learning from there. You don't know what questions you have until you have them.
Yeah.
Until you do the dang thing. So it's a step by step.
A good thing to search on YouTube is just like beginner's tips for artists.
Yeah.
Or like artist beginner, and you'll find a trillion videos of people talking about like good ways to start and how to get into it, and they'll have lots of good advice for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to swap seats?
Sure. We need another art question. Lip.
Somebody had asked us, and this isn't a drawing thing, but they asked me like what I had learned most from you as an artist and vice versa.
That I'm a workaholic?
No, as an artist, not as a worker.
That I'm a workaholic.
And I learned like a ton of Photoshop things from Julia when we were first working together. I learned like so many Photoshop tricks. I didn't realize that I didn't know anything about Photoshop, but I truly didn't. But I picked up a ton of that from you. And then also just like so many things about composition and mood and lighting and shadow and how to achieve that stuff. I just took from you.
I did.
So that's my answer for that. Jay is vibing is asking how to tackle drawing people in weird perspectives.
That's not one for either of us, I don't think.
I do actually have a tip for that, but
it's like you can use perspective. Do you want to solve that one then?
I mean, it was just like one short tip, which is that you can use boxes and then put the people in the boxes. You probably know that tip too.
Yeah, if you want to use perspective, you can kind of like build a box,
What is happening with this box?
I made the perspective really short. He's like looking up
this
at
isn't
us.
actually what I meant.
Oh. This is always how I did it.
It's kind of basically the same idea. I'll just tell you what I mean and you can draw it because it's really easy.
Okay.
Just draw me like a rectangle in perspective.
Tall rectangle?
Like
that?
That works. Then what you'll do is the top of that rectangle is where the top of their head will hit, and the bottom is where their feet will hit. Like add the other lines to the rectangle as well. No, not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Stop. Take it away. Make the full cube lines of the rectangle. Like the lines we can't see, put those in. So it's like you're putting the person inside of this rectangle.
Oh, yeah.
So if they're facing to the right, which is what it would be for this one, their head will hit in the middle of the top portion of the rectangle. Their feet will stand on the bottom of the rectangle, and you're putting them inside of it. And if you do that correctly, then they will be in the proper perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And you can make a rectangle at any angle and then place the person in it. And if you do it good, it will work.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. I'm just going to like scribble them in so people don't think I'm crazy. Nobody think I'm crazy.
Well, I feel like I was doing that.
Yeah, but you didn't show the final product. Because then you can like sort of follow the lines of it. And like one foot has to land here and one has to land like here.
We know about the unofficial Secret Sleepover Society. We have okayed it. Thank you.
This line goes straight across. The shoulders are going to follow this perspective line. Feet are going to follow this one. So you can use the no one can hear me. You can use the rectangle to see like what angle everything will be at. as you draw it. The knees will be more like this. So one arm is going to come down higher than the other one, that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's a good way to put people in perspective, at least. And it works especially well for weird ones because you can get like a top-down crazy rectangle and be like, well, that's where the head has to be. So you can kind of figure it out from there. What other question for...
What other question we got?
For Julia. We got like 7 minutes left. Hair textures. I'm not good at that, actually. Foreshortening. Composition tips you kind of did.
I did do composition.
I don't know if you have any more.
No. Good mustaches.
Do you regularly use gesture drawings to warm up or dive right in? It depends on the day. I prefer to warm up with gesture drawings if I have the time.
How do you draw cool or interesting clothes? I usually look up like different fashions from. Sometimes I'll do like Korean streetwear, or I'll look up Tokyo fashions, or fall fashions 2020. How do you draw cars? This is boxes in perspective. And then you carve out from there. Chains and shorthand is really easy question for me to answer. So if I want it kind of twisted, I'll take like a really thick brush and I'll just do some kind of interlocking rectangles. And then I'll go in with an eraser. And then just do an over under.
Yeah, I do it similarly. Johnny Be Good asked, how long did it take you to find a style? Do you think a style should be important to all artists?
You have a style.
Yeah, it's something we mentioned recently in our Redrawing Childhood Art episode, is that you already have a style, and the elements that make up your style will become more clear to you as you progress as an artist, because you will not be able to escape from them. And and sometimes you will wish to God you could draw in a different style.
Yeah. And the more you try to draw it in someone else's style and you see your own, like, what you can and can't do for that style, it'll make you realize what your style is.
Yeah, totally. But looking back through my own art, like, I could see the through line clearly of the elements that I still draw the same way. But yeah, your style is there.
It's there. You can't escape it. Even 3-year-old me drew sad, melancholic people looking away.
Yeah. So the real answer is don't even think about it.
Yeah,
don't even worry about it.
Just go.
Just worry about getting better at drawing. Shortcuts between real anatomy to like an anime style. It's generally just like...
Think of what you think is important.
Well, anime style also tends to have characters... The proportions are different than real humans. In a lot of anime, the heads are smaller and the bodies are taller than real life people actually are. It depends on the anime, obviously. Other ones have giant heads and like squat bodies.
Yeah.
Some of them have tiny heads and really long bodies. But you can bet your bottom ass that those artists knew how to do straight up anatomy before they exaggerated it.
Someone said, this is a fun question to answer as we only have a couple of minutes left. What's the difference between drawing regular eyes and anime eyes? Is one more difficult than the other? Anime eyes are just exaggerated and simplified. I think I went over this in a different stream, but like, I'm going to draw a very quick, realistic eye. So, yeah, is there another question? Or something you wanted to talk about? No,
I was just, while you were pausing, I was just going to, somebody said, I like Jacob's cartoony style, but I'd love to see him draw something super detailed and super rendered. It may be something I'll do at some point, but in general, I don't actually enjoy doing that very much.
Like, yeah.
part of the joy for me is like the expression and the movement and the gesture. And then when it gets too bogged down in anything finicky, I really lose interest fast.
I touched on this in the draw class that I did. That's up on Drawfee Extra if you guys missed it. But the way the eyes work is that it's a ball with a lens on top, so it has like an extra little bump, and then your iris and your pupil recede into your eye. So when, and this is important to the anime thing, when light hits this way, your eyelid is going to cast light or shadow onto your iris and like, you know, part where your eye color is, and because it's a cone that's going into your eye, so this part's going to be in shadow, this part's going to be in highlight, but then the round part of your eye, because it's glossy and it's very shiny because it's very wet, you have a highlight that goes over the whole dang thing. So that is important because in anime, a lot of the shortcuts that they do, I hate drawing anime eyes just because I'm really bad at it, but you have the pupil, oftentimes they'll have this thing, that shadow, and then they'll have the highlight, and then sometimes they'll have another little shiny bit down here, and then they'll have like the bottom eyelid, and then sometimes they'll have this, sometimes they won't, but it's just like an exaggerated form, but all of the basic rules are there.
Totally. And then they fancy them up by adding just like multiple layers of shadow, a million highlights. Sometimes there are highlight shapes that are fun.
Sometimes
like
they do that little like
stars and hearts and shit in there.
Yeah.
But it's all based on the same thing
And then,
Julia
like,
said.
JoJo eyes are very much like my current style, but like just both simplified and complicated a little bit. It's fun because they definitely know like anatomy and kind of just play with it.
Ooh, the food might be here.
Food is here.
Hello? Okay, I'll be right down. Thank you. I gotta go get the food.
Go get the food.
My God.
My God. Anyway, JoJo eyes are fun. How do you draw the transition between hair and forehead? It's difficult for me, so I'll cheat it sometimes if I have a guy or someone who has short hair, rather. So I'll either go across and then I'll start doing that, you know, but if you don't like that effect of it being too clean, you can do sort of like this, and sometimes I'll go back in. Well, not that far, but I'll follow that like general first line that I drew because the hairs are growing in. You just have to look at the direction that the hair is going in. Same thing for women, or, you know, people who maybe don't have like this section. So that it's just.
I'm back.
If I draw someone who has longer hair, I'll do bangs, or I'll cut this and just have it be very smooth.
You want to give us a little porf so we can call it a night? Oh, here he is. He was here all along. We never knew. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Sorry it was a sort of different kind of stream if you were coming hoping for the zany full crew antics. I'm sure we'll be back next week with everybody involved, depending on if everyone can be healthy.
This artist drew Porfo as a realistic person, and it is so much more bizarre than you'd expect.
Click now, please. Hurry.
Give me your clicks.
But I hope this was enjoyable. Also, on Thursday, I will be doing the Thursday day stream.
Yay.
I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet. I think I might do like a full piece start to finish.
Oh, that's fine.
Try to do that in 2 hours.
That's cool.
So we'll go over like everything from sort of thumbnailing it and planning the gesture and sketching and inking and coloring and doing the whole deal. So that will probably be fun. And that's it, man. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Drawfee. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody who subbed too. Sorry we couldn't read every subber. It's just a lot of people, which is great.
Yeah.
And now Julia must end the stream.
I must end the stream. We'll see you on SSS on Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
We love you. Bye.